Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. It's been a big year, huge year for people that love to make their playgroup cry. We've gotten salty commander after powerful commander after another commander that just seems absolutely broken and not long for this world. So whenever you put all of those together, I thought it'd be cool to make a new list of the most saltiest commanders. As always, this is very subjective, but if I forget one, don't be afraid to put it in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to get your free $15 whenever you click on that whatnot link. Additionally, you guys can get a free 10% off all of your Tolarian library proxies whenever you use code DT4D. So super excited to announce I'm now partnering with Baron of Dice to bring your TCG accessories to the next level. These deck boxes are put simply just eye-catching. I'm obsessed with the leather exterior on these. It just makes the art look super unique, and that's what you're looking for whenever you're trying to show off your deck. The playmats are also super high quality. They have a non-slip backing along with hand-stitched edges featuring that eye-popping art drawn by legendary artists in the space like Ron Spencer. They're also giving me a 5% discount code for all of you guys in the audience. Again, thank you Baron of Dice for sponsoring this channel. Now let's talk about number 5. Number 5 is Ygra, Eater of All. This is a 5 CMC legendary creature elemental cat. It has ward, sacrifice of food, and it says other creatures are food artifacts in addition to their other types and have the ability to pay 2, sacrifice is permanent, you gain 2 life. Now the thing is, this works on everybody's board state, so even your opponents now have food in the form of creatures. And then it says whenever a food is put into a graveyard, you get to put a 1/1 counter on Ygra, Eater of All. So this is a cool thematic food commander, right? No, the thing is your opponent's creatures are now the food. And now that all of your opponent's creatures are artifacts, we are just going to eat them all by destroying them with the many ways green has to deal with just destroying artifacts. So essentially we keep every single one of our opponent's creatures off the board while making our commander massive, and then we can utilize even the card advantage we get in green that allows us to draw cards equal to a creature's power, not to mention this guy does combo off with a plethora of other cards. There are 2 cards off the top of my head that allow us to generate a creature token whenever we sacrifice a food. So that creature token we just created is now a food because Ygra turns it into a food, making it to where you can generate infinite sack outlets. So not only is this a super salty strategy that can hate your opponent's board off of the table and basically keep it to where they can't even play the game, especially with their commander, it's also a strategy that can go infinite fairly easily and use all of the things Gilgari has to deal infinite damage using die triggers and stuff. So you're mixing combo with a strategy that hates creatures. This guy does just end up being a pretty salty commander to play against. Not every card we're going to be talking about on this list is new. At number 4 we have Atraxa. This is a 7 CMC legendary Phyrexian Angel. It's green, white, black, and blue and says Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, and Lifelink. Then it has this broken ETB. When Atraxa Grand Unifier enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card revealed this way, you may put 1 card from each card type into your hand. So it enters the battlefield, you look at 10 cards, you get to choose an enchantment, an artifact, an instant, put it into your hand, and then you get a ton of value. Just a heads up with this deck, I've learned don't ask them if they're trying to win with Thassa's Oracle, ask them if they have Food Chain in their deck instead. I kind of thought they were the same thing, they're not the same thing. Again, this is one of those decks that every deck is doing the same thing, it's just different how they get there. And everybody has this cool different way they get there, but at the end of the day, the deck is I'm going to blink my commander a shit ton of times, and then eventually I'm going to find the weird win con I have to win the game. And depending on how long it takes them to get there, this can be one of those storm decks where you just kind of check out and wait for them to either end your turn or you're just going to die. I do want to mention also, sometimes you're just wishing, maybe I did want to just die to Thassa's Oracle. That way I didn't have to wait there for 30 minutes. Again, you've seen one Atraxa deck, you've probably seen them all. This is one of those decks that's almost too powerful to balance in my opinion. And I'm even going to say like the old Atraxa kind of suffered from the same thing. Like you're always going to expect Infect, but I think Infect is being more and more fair in my honest opinion. I think the games are speeding up and Infect just feels like a lot slower, especially when you can only proliferate like once per turn like the old Atraxa does. So I think Infect's in and whatever the hell this is out. That's my opinion. Vivv has an activated ability for 0. You can add X mana of any combinations of blue or red to your mana pool where X is Vivv's power. And then it says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get to put a 1/1 counter on Vivv and Vivv deals 1 damage to each opponent. Now all you have to do is slap a Curiosity, Ophidium Eye, or even use Tandem Lookout to give you Vivv the ability to draw a card whenever it deals damage to an opponent. And now not only does this become the win con, it generates you mana, mana, and it draws you cards. This card just does everything in the most degenerate storm colors, and it is very, very obvious. I mean, your Vivv deck is not a bracket 2. Just putting this in the command zone, you're looking at a bracket 3 no matter what you put in the deck. I feel like you'd have to really, really try to make a Vivv deck bad. Maybe Vivv isn't all creatures. Okay, that's probably a bracket 2. Maybe not even a bracket 2, but nobody's playing Vivv all creatures because that deck just doesn't work. Doesn't make any sense. This guy is just absurd. Not only is it undercosted at 3 mana, I think this just put too many abilities on one card, and the card literally does do almost everything except for draw you cards. This almost reminds me of Nadu. Maybe that's like a little hyperbolic, but I will stress, I think it's a little hyperbolic, like not a lot hyperbolic. Vivv just feels absurd to play against if you guys have ever gotten the honor, right? At number 2, this guy's just sticking around and continues to just ruin my games out of nowhere. And there is a little bit of recency bias whenever we're talking about Etali Primal Conqueror. This is a 7 CMC legendary creature elder dinosaur that says, when Etali Primal Conqueror enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among those non-land cards that were exiled this way. He enters the battlefield, and then you get to cast 4 cards for free. Now, notably, this guy's also always kind of accompanied with Pantlaza if that's the commander, and that just makes it even more absurd because it enters the battlefield and explored. Just to speak on the recency bias, I was playing against Pantlaza, and it was absolutely absurd. All this guy had was 7 mana and his commander on the battlefield. He cast Etali, explores Terror of the Peaks from the top, and then he just rips into a Ghalta and puts his entire hand onto the table and then kills me with 38 damage. I was like, okay, I'm dead. That's fair. It is okay though, because the next player instantly gained 50 plus life and then shot him with Aetherflux, so kind of deserved. Every 2 players died that rotation. Anyway, I'm just saying this card is absurd for the value you get, and it is kind of the same as Atraxa. This player is going to try to get that ETB as many times as possible, and then if it is accompanied with Pantlaza, they're trying to blink it anyway because you have access to white. So this is not only a very, very salty commander, I think it's a very, very salty card in the 99 and in a 99 of the most popular dinosaur commander right now, and honestly I think it's one of the best dinosaurs in that deck. If they're not going infinite, grabbing Etali probably will just win you the game. He says whenever Kefka enters the battlefield or attacks, each player discards a card, then you draw a card for each card type among cards discarded this way. 9 times out of 10, you're going to draw 2 and maybe even 3 cards pretty consistently. Not only is this an ETB, but it's also an attack trigger, and that's also not where this card ends. You can flip them for 8 mana and then you get a creature with flying, and whenever an opponent loses life during your turn, you get to draw that many cards. So he's card advantage, he's card disadvantage, and he just tears your hand apart. This guy always enters the battlefield. They try to make sure he has haste, so the turn he comes down, 9 times out of 10, you're discarding 2 cards, and then if he has open mana, you can either clone this guy, you can use any of the red spells that create a token copy of this guy. You don't care if they died to the legend roll, and hey, maybe you let your own original copy die to the legend roll and you're reanimating him for 1 mana. Again, this is one of those decks where they're trying to get the ETB as many times as possible, as often as possible, and if you decide, okay, I'm going to counter this deck by destroying their commander as much as possible, they're just going to reanimate it and you're still going to discard your hand. Because remember, this is a very, very powerful reanimation strategy because he allows you to discard your bombs that you're trying to reanimate. So not only does it kind of just synergize, they really don't care if you kill their commander because we are in Grixis, and Grixis does whatever it wants, and especially from the graveyard. With that being said, guys, we're going to end the video here, but let me know what you think the saltiest commander out there is right now. Also, let me know a game where you just lost out of nowhere and you felt like, next time I'm attacking him first, and I'm going to bring this grudge from this game into the next game, and he'll know what he did.